Disney released the first trailer for their upcoming animated movie, Mufasa. And yes, I'm saying it's an animated movie. It's not live action just because the animation is trying to look realistic. But when I saw this, my first thought was, well, what's the point of actually doing this? Like, did people really want this? I know the previous live action Lion King did really well in the box office, making over $1 billion globally, but I just don't think there's really much of a demand for this type of movie. But I will get more on that in a little bit. But first, let's just kind of look at this article from the Hollywood Reporter that's talking about it. It's saying it's an origin story for Mufasa because you have to have origin stories for everything now. But I'm glad they're not doing the villain origin story route because I think that's been kind of played out. But one of the problems with this, I think, is they're kind of retconning the origin for Mufasa. This is what the official log line of the movie has to say. Mufasa the Lion King enlists Rafiki to relay the legend of Mufasa to young lion cub Kiara, daughter of Simba and Nala, with Timon and Pumbaa lending their signature shtick. And this is what I don't get about this whole movie, because if you wanted to have the same actors you wanted to introduce the character of Kiara, then they could have done that if they would have just based this movie off of Lion King 2 Simba's Pride, because then you can get all that. But instead they're trying to do this original story, which I can commend them a bit for doing that, but the whole retconning Mufasa's origin seems a bit strange to me. And maybe some people would say they don't just want to tread on old grounds by just remaking Lion King 2, which Disney has not been shy about just remaking some of the movies that they had. But I think in their mindset, they don't want to remake something that was basically a straight to video movie. But essentially, that's pretty much what they've been doing with a lot of these live action movies, is especially when they just go straight to video on demand on the Disney Plus platform. They're basically the straight to video movies, but they're just giving them blockbuster movie budgets, which is why they've been suffering at the box office. But let's continue with this. Told in flashbacks, the story introduces Mufasa as an orphan cub, lost and alone until he meets a sympathetic lion named Taka, the heir to a royal bloodline. The chance meeting sets in motion an expansive journey of an extraordinary group of misfits searching for their destiny. Their bonds will be tested as they work together to evade a threatening and deadly foe. Something interesting with the casting, though, is obviously they're not going to have James Earl Jones voice the character Mufasa because it's an origin story. It's a young Mufasa, but it would still be hilarious to hear his voice coming out of this lion cub right here. Instead, they say it's Aaron Pierre is going to be voicing the character Mufasa, and Kelvin Harlinson Jr. it says is voicing his brother Scar, but it says though he's listed in the credits as Taka, which is kind of interesting when you consider that how the story is talking about how Taka is of a royal bloodline. Mufasa is an orphan lion cub. Taka takes him in and treats him like a brother. And then sometime between this movie and the original movie that we all know, Mufasa is the king. Scar has a scar over his eye, and he's known as Scar instead of Taka. So maybe this is a villain origin story after all, but the villain is actually Mufasa because he's an orphan. He's taken in by this royal family, and then he proceeds to scar the son of that family who treated him like a brother, and then usurps his position as the king of the Pride Lands, or at least that's the impression I'm getting from this, which doesn't seem to be a good story for Mufasa. It doesn't paint him in the best light. Not to mention, then he proceeds to mock Scar by referring to him as such for the rest of his life. So I don't know why they're going down this route. Maybe things will be different, but just looking at it like this, like, yeah, it's not really the best look for Mufasa. Not to mention, I don't understand the framework of this story by having it be Rafiki telling it to Kiara, because this isn't something that you'd think Rafiki would want to be telling her. Like, hey, let me tell you the story about how your grandfather overthrew a kingdom who was really apparently kind to him and took him in when he had nothing left. It's like, yeah, that's not really the best look. Usually a dictator would try to say like, well, the previous king was bad and that's why I overthrew him or usurped him or something like that. Or maybe that's going to be what happened in this movie, but then you got to go back to like, oh, this is an unreliable narrator because Rafiki sides with Mufasa or something. I don't know. I'm thinking too much into it. I don't think Disney put this much thought into it. I think they were just trying to be a little bit subversive with that. But when you're being subversive, you have to give the audience something that's satisfying. And I don't think a lot of people would really appreciate this, but I don't think most people have actually thought too much about this. I think most people are just thinking this is a movie that no one was asking for. Like, we don't need to know an origin story for Mufasa. We have the original Lion King movie. It's a good standalone movie, but yet Disney was failing so much at the box office last year. They're just trying to retreat back to the well and find something that worked for them. And this is the last big movie that they had that worked for them. So maybe they're just thinking like, well, this is what we need to do. And it seems like audiences disagree, because you can look at the like to dislike ratio right here, and it's not a very good sign for them. 130,000 downvotes to 74,000 upvotes. And really, it's just this trailer doesn't look that good. It's this whole approach of them trying to be realistic with the animation. While still frames might look good, it doesn't make it look exciting. Watch the original movie. It just has so much more life to it than, ironically, something that's trying to be made to look more realistic. Like I said, they might look decent and it's well done animation, but still, it's nothing that exciting. It just kind of looks, I don't know, just fairly bland. Yeah, just nothing. It's nothing special. And I think that's what most people are picking up on when it comes to this movie. It is what it is. It's definitely a movie. And I don't think it's going to be something that really helps out with Disney. And this is a kind of bad news for them, because they lost so much money at the box office last year. And this year, because of the strikes that happened, they only have a few major releases from Walt Disney Pictures and Pixar. It's like, this one, then they have the sequels for Inside Out and Moana, and that's pretty much it. Inside Out really has kind of a lukewarm response to it. Doesn't seem to be getting people excited. And then they have this movie and people don't seem to actually like this movie, which is kind of a shame for them, because I think they were kind of floating this idea, at least there were last year, about having a Lion King cinematic universe. And I think it was all predicated on how well Mufasa is received. And this just goes to show how little ideas Disney still has, because they're not making anything original that's good. It's just all sequels and reboots and reimaginings and other things like that. Maybe having a cinematic universe would have given them some original ideas for a movie, like what they're doing with Mufasa, instead of just making it a sequel to The Lion King 2. But it doesn't seem like this is going to work out for them. And if that's the case, then maybe they'll go back to making some more original content, but I really don't expect as much. I think they're just going to try to find something else that they have in their vault to reimagine and hope that that would work instead. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think that this movie is going to be successful, or do you think it's just going to be another Disney bomb? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest in entertainment news. And don't forget to like and share the video, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.